I'm sure you've heard the news. There's a podcast that can boost your brain power and skills. It's called Daddy Minds Podcast. Hosted by the ever-inspiring Anath Lee Wales, the Daddy Minds Podcast is your go-to source for all things business, mental health, and self-improvement. With 44 episodes available on over 30 listening apps, there's something for everyone. Ever wondered what it takes to be a top classical guitarist? Check out our interview with Jonathan Taylor. Or maybe you're looking for entrepreneurial insights? Don't miss our chat with Prakash Chugani, author, entrepreneur, and international business coach. But that's not all. We dive deep into maximizing the impact of your training workshops, the benefits of professional development seminars, and even how to make your next project a roaring success. So why wait? Tune in to the Daddy Minds Podcast today and start your journey to becoming the best version of yourself. Visit our website at Daddy Minds Podcast for more information. Subscribe now and let's unlock your potential together.
Yes, so Wendy Alexander, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very fine. So let's begin by a little introduction about you so that the audience may know who we have brought today.
Okay, so I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. And I work in the career coaching space, mostly working with midlife people. So, mid to senior to executive level management. I work with in terms of helping them grow in their career or transition into new careers. I myself worked in corporate for a long time. And then when I hit midlife, I went through a lot of stress and a lot of changes. And so I left corporate and went full-time into the career coaching business. So what I do is help people transition. I help people with interview practice. And I also do a lot of writing. So resume writing, LinkedIn profile writing. But I also do small, business copywriting for small businesses. So writing is a big, big part of my life and my work. But the background of me is that I grew up in Cape Town in South Africa and migrated to Australia when I was 21 years old, almost 21 years old. And I've been in Australia for 37 years. So I guess I'm giving my age away.
Already you have done it.
That's right.
But it's not bad.
Beg your pardon?
It's not bad. People should be happy with their age.
Yes, I am. I feel this is a good time in my life. This is a very good time in my life. I say that my midlife years have been my best years so far. I still look young, but I'm wiser.
They say that when someone fears to say their age, it is maybe because they don't feel they have done enough with their life.
Yeah, maybe. No, for me, I'm going to be 58 in a few weeks' time. So 10th of March, I turn 58 and I've done a lot. The only thing that really is left that for me that I want to do is to continue to travel and see the world. So I do a lot of traveling and I have a trip booked to the United Kingdom and Europe in May. So I'm going on a big 6-week traveling trip as well. But yeah, so I work to travel. That's kind of what I do now in my life.
That's very nice. That's a life of someone who has really done enough with their young ages.
Yes, I have. They weren't always easy years, but they've been good years. I've learned a lot through my whole journey, from growing up in South Africa to migrating to Australia. I also lived in the United States for a few years and back in Australia now. So yeah, but I've traveled to many countries in the world.
So now let's talk about your book, Internal Uprising. So
yes,
it blends humor with practical advice for menopausal women. What inspired you to write it, and how do you hope it empowers women to reclaim their voice during this transformation phase?
So what inspired the writing of it was really me going through it myself. It was a very difficult time for me. It was something that happened when I was 45 and I wasn't really ready for it. I thought in my brain, I thought menopause was supposed to happen in my 50s, but it came early. it came early for me. I was 45 years old when I first started to experience some of the changes. And some of the big changes that came with menopause was the brain fog. So there was a lot of brain fog. There was a lot of sleepless, so insomnia. I suffered from insomnia, a lot of hot sweats, things like that. So it affected my physical body, but also affected some of the thinking. So I found that my brain was foggy all the time. And at the time I went through it, I was in a very high-powered job in corporate, and it was affecting my work. It started to affect my work. I found concentration quite difficult. I was very tired all the time. One of the things I noticed was that there was no support for us in the workplace. So there was no support for women in the workplace. And so going through all those challenges, I started to write about it because I was trying to make sense of it. And that's kind of how I've always processed my life. Even when I was growing up in the difficult years of apartheid in South Africa, I would write through that time. I always wrote to make sense of difficult times. And so I started to write about the menopausal journey. And I hadn't intended to write a book about it. Like for me, it was just writing in a journal, it was just recording my thoughts, recording how I was feeling. But then I also started to do research. I started to read a lot of books, whatever books were out on menopause, and there weren't many. I started to read about them. I started to do research on the internet, like looking at what doctors were saying and how you could manage it. And one of the things I did find through all my research, through talking with other women who were going through it, was that there's definitely very little support in the workplace for women going through that journey. Usually women become so exhausted, they become so frustrated, they become incredibly stressed out. And so they end up leaving corporate. And that's what I did. I decided to leave corporate. I already had my career coaching business, which was very much a part-time business because I was working corporate full-time and I was doing career coaching part-time. And then I decided to transition into the full-time career coaching. Finished the book, or finished the first drafts of the book, and sent it to an editor. And she encouraged me to share some of the journal recordings because she felt that something was missing from the book, like something personal was missing from the book. And so I sent her a couple of my journal writings that I'd done through that time, and she said, that's what's missing from the book. So the book, in fact, has strategies and tips on how to get through menopause, but it also has some very real stories of my own journey and my own struggles through it and what I did to eventually overcome and to transition into a career that I really love, that's a lot less stressful for me. And so, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm actually doing the career that I chose during midlife. And part of that has led to the work that I'm now doing, which is to help other women transition into their midlife careers, because we're not always meant to stay in the same career forever. Sometimes we have to go do something different, especially if we want to be happy or we want to feel like we're doing a meaningful career, or in some cases, which was in my case, we need to reduce our stress. So that was really the journey of why I wrote it and what it's done for me.
Okay, so on the side of maybe physical health or internal health, what are the tips that you could give to women who are entering into this phase about how they should take care of themselves and maybe look just as young as I see you?
Thank you. Well, one of the things I found that I needed to get sorted out very quickly was my sleep, because during menopause, or the first 6 months of it, I wasn't sleeping very well. That is one of the side effects. When your hormones start going all over the place, one of the things you lose very quickly is the ability to sleep through the night. So that was one of the things that I realized I had to get under control fairly quickly, because, I'm a mother to a 27-year-old daughter. And I remember when she was a baby, when you're a new mom and you're not sleeping, you can very quickly become unhealthy. You can become quite depressed, so you can be very tired, you can be very stressed, very anxious, but you can also lose health. Your physical body can start being impacted. And I knew that from being a mother. I knew that sleep deprivation is a problem. So I did go and see the GP, but what I will say is that the GP didn't help much because they looked at me, or my GP looked at me like I was a woman and I should just know what to do. Well, I didn't know what to do because I was 45 years old. I was younger than I expected to be in menopause. I'd done no research or anything like that. And so I didn't know what to do. But what I did do was eventually I went researching again, and I found a naturopath, and I found he was a Western medical doctor, but he had trained in Eastern medicine as well. So he had trained in things like Ayurveda and natural medicine and all of that. So I went and saw him, and he actually helped me with getting the sleep under control. And a couple of things he encouraged me to do, which I tried. One was breathing, taking, like when I felt really anxious, he was like, deep breaths, breathe through it. He taught me how to breathe deeply instead of very shallowly. And then the other thing he did was give me some herbs to help me sleep, right? So there was the natural herbs that he helped. And then he helped me change my diet, because at the time, that was the other thing I was doing. Because I was so tired, I was eating a lot of sugar. And that's a vicious cycle, right? When you eat more sugar, you become more tired and so on and so on. So it was like I was chasing my tail. And then he gave me a good eating plan, which was, lots of vegetables, good fruit, and lean protein, pretty much. And that's what I started doing. I was carrying a bit of weight during that phase. I started to drop the weight. I started to sleep better. And over a period of time, the combination of the herbs, the good food, the breathing, and the other thing was exercise. He was like, you need to move. So it doesn't matter if you don't like exercising or going to the gym, just walk every day. Walk for 30 minutes every day. So these were some of the things that I tried, and by combining all of those things, it eventually started to work. And once I got my sleep back and the sleep back under control, everything became better after that because it helps with the brain function and everything. So sleep is really, really important. And it's a time when many women at this stage of life get very tired, but they don't know how to regain the control of the sleep. But it's important to do that.
That's very nice. So you also talked about writing very much. So I am personally an author, and I personally believe that writing actually helps the writer than the readers. So sometimes you write a book, and that book will be your guideline for the rest of your life. It happens most of the time. So what would you say about writing, and how is it helpful, and how would you encourage people to record a journal, just to write what they feel and what they think? I once had someone saying that if you can write your problem down on a paper, at least 80% of it is solved. So what do you say about that?
I tend to agree with that. So for me, I first started writing when I was 6 years old because I didn't understand what was going on in South Africa. I was a child. And when you're a child, you just think the whole world belongs to you. Then you start to discover that you're growing up in a country that's actually segregated. The races, the cultures is segregated and separated. And I'm classified in South Africa as Cape-coloured, meaning I come from a biracial background. So I have Scottish and white grandparents, and I have African grandparents. So there's a biracial mix there. So in South Africa, that classified you as coloured, which meant that we didn't really belong to either group. We didn't belong to the black group. We didn't belong to the white group. Neither one of them really wanted us. So we didn't fit in. And then obviously in South Africa were all those laws, right? About if you're black, you can't go into these cinemas, can't go on those trains, can't go into that beach. Same with if you're coloured. And obviously the privileges was reserved for the white population in South Africa. Anybody who knows the history of apartheid knows what that was all about. So I didn't understand that at a young age. I just was really shocked when I found out that I couldn't go to certain beaches and I couldn't do certain things. And so I started to write. And writing for me, like you say, it became almost like a way. Yeah, I was starting to wanting to solve the problems or the confusion that was going on in my mind. And I would write, and I started to write little short stories. I would write poetry, all that type of thing. And that was where the writing journey started for me. It really started as a means for me to figure out and process South Africa and its environment. But it went with me everywhere I went, even when I migrated to Australia. And migration to Australia wasn't easy. It was something we as a family wanted to do for a lot of years because we just wanted to get out of the violence that was South Africa at the time. But when you come to a new country and you suddenly have freedoms that you didn't have in the old country, I didn't know what to do with that either. And neither did my family. So my brothers and sisters and I and my parents, we were confused. We were still looking for, like, I remember when I first arrived here and I had to go into the city one day, I was looking for the train that said which carriage I could get into. I said that to my cousin. I said, which carriage can I get in? Which carriage is ours? I said to her. And she said, you're not in South Africa anymore. You can get into any carriage. So there was all that I had to figure out as well, this whole new life. And so I wrote through that as well. And then I've had, lots of traumas and things in life, gone through some difficult times, and I've always written through it. So for me, writing takes the form of writing in a journal. I find writing with a pen on paper makes my brain process things better than writing on a computer. Now, I do obviously do writing on a computer because that's what I do in my job. I use AI tools, use the computer, the keyboard, whatever. But when I need to process things, when I need to fix problems, when I was writing my book, it was all written by longhand in a journal. And I just found it helped my brain process what I was struggling with. So I agree with you that writing is a means to help you figure out life. And sometimes you get to help other people because they read your book. But fundamentally, it is probably more for the writer than it is for the reader. It's really you helping to figure out your problems, right? And you do it through the written word. And I just found that it's always helped me. And it's been with me for all of my life. And I still write to this day. I still journal to this day. If I have something that I need to figure out, I will, like you say, I'll write it down, like ask myself questions. I tend to ask myself questions. Like, what is this trying to teach me, for example, might be something I write in my journal. And then I'll just freestyle write. I'll just let my brain dump whatever's coming up. I don't censor it because somewhere in there is an answer. Even if I write 2 pages of rubbish or it seems like rubbish, somewhere in there, something flows through that tells me, oh, that could be a potential answer, right? So I'm with you. I agree. Writing is a means of solving problems. And I encourage everybody who struggles with whatever they're struggling with to write about it. Find a journal. I mean, I have many journals for many different things, and I use it daily.
Okay, that's awesome. That reminds me of a story I had like last month. There's Rwanda was colonized by Belgians and Germans. So there is this man, he was born from a Belgian soldier and a Rwandan woman. And then by the time of the end of the colonization, they took all those children to Europe. And then when they reached in Europe, as they grew up, they couldn't access certain things. They told them that they are not Belgians. So later, as an old man, through all that struggling, he managed to get some few money, and then he came back to Rwanda. And then he said, maybe here this is where it's wrong, because in Rwanda, our president has built a system that has gone beyond all those things. So I can hear his pain now as you are telling me your story.
Yes. And I think it's important to record our journeys wherever we can, because you don't know who's going to read that in the future and who it's going to help, right? So I think it's very important. I think if people love writing, and even if you don't love writing, it does help you figure out things. When you start asking your questions, writing your questions down or writing your problems down, somehow, some way, answers always come, you know?
Yes. Now, to another question. Growing up during the apartheid in South Africa, later rebuilding your life in Australia, maybe that must have taught you some powerful lessons. So, how have these experiences influenced your resilience and the way you coach midlife professionals today?
So, look, I would say the biggest lesson that I've had woven throughout my life has been the lesson of resilience. So, when you're growing up in a country like South Africa, and my father told me once I realized that I had the wrong color skin and a wrong color skin because I was classified as colored. And that means there wasn't a lot of opportunity for black people. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for colored people. Once I realized that, my dad told us when we were very young, he said, you're going to have to work twice as hard to have any kind of measure of success in this country. Don't expect anything to be given to you because it isn't going to be given to you. You have to study hard. You have to work hard. Even when you feel like giving up, you can't give up unless you want to have a life that doesn't amount to much. So I learned those lessons young, and it was been our parents made us do our homework. School was very important. My father also encouraged us to read a lot. So he said, you need to educate your mind. So read all kinds of books. And that's where some of the love of writing came from a lot of reading of books. I loved storytelling. And so, but the lesson that I learned was there wasn't an option to give up. Like no matter how difficult things got, I had to have resilience through it all. And there were many times, I mean, there were so many things that happened in South Africa, opportunities that I had to fight very hard for. Like I wanted to go to the University of Cape Town when I finished high school, but my parents couldn't afford it. So I had to work really hard, and I had to write this 3,000-word essay to win a scholarship to go to the university. I did do the essay, and I actually won the scholarship to go to university. But it was a lot of research. It was going to the library. It was working out my topics and then writing this essay. And I wrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it and had my dad read it, and he gave me ideas, and I had to, and eventually I submitted it, and they loved it, and they gave me the scholarship. But I would not have been able to go to university in South Africa if I hadn't won that scholarship. And I did 1 year of university there. That was hard because that university was one of the most prestigious universities in South Africa, and it was largely a whites-only university. So I walked into a lot of my classes as the only student of color. And I felt the isolation immediately, right? People didn't want to sit next to me. Nobody wanted to be my partner because, all white students and I'm the only colored student. So there again, it was a lot of resilience. It was, I would go home and I would cry because I was so upset and lonely and isolated. But the next day I would have to go back to university, hold my head up high, and keep going forward. So I learned probably from a very young age that life was probably going to be challenging, and that I either could fold like a deck of cards or I had to just keep going forward. And I'm glad that my father taught us those lessons because it's helped me throughout my life. When I came to Australia and transitioning and getting used to a new country was difficult, I kept going forward. When I had a broken relationship and I became a single mother to my daughter, I had to keep moving forward, And then when I ended up in corporate and I was the only woman, and also the only woman of color with a lot of men on the executive leadership teams, there too I had to find my way and work my way through and be strong as a woman to be able to contribute in that environment and also to survive in that environment. because it was quite a male-dominated environment, but was also very much a white-dominated environment. So it's been with me throughout my life, but the lessons started growing up in South Africa. Because that environment was difficult, it helped me in every other area of my life. And every time I've gone through difficult times, I always go back to those lessons. I always go back to that strength that my parents gave me and to the ability to just keep moving forward, one step in front of the other, you know? That's been the secret.
So you had to work like there is no second plan. There is no plan B. You just have or die.
That's right. That's right. There was no plan B. Plan A was it. And I had to make plan A work.
There is what we call the beast mode saying for men who want to be strong and successful, which says, I will do it or die. Other option.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. There is no other option, you know. And for me, especially when I became a single mom and I had to feed a child, I had to put a roof over our head. I had to put food on the table. There was nobody else. He had left. He had gone. And so, yeah, there was no plan B. It was me and only me. And so, but, you know, I did have support in that. And I think it's important to remember that we never achieve success on our own. There's always people in your corner, right? So in my corner, I had my family. I had my siblings and my parents, and they helped me with my daughter. When I had to work or if I was working late, one of my siblings would pick my daughter up from the daycare center, take her home with them, look after her until I finished and I could come and get her. So I did have support. We never walk the success journey on our own. There are always people that are in our corners, and I think it's important to remember that. And then at work as well, I had a handful of people who I could go to and ask for support from like, for example, my daughter, when she was starting school, the teacher discovered that she had dyslexia. So she would get her letters mixed up and she struggled with reading. And so I had to attend a extra reading class with her on a Wednesday at school. So I went to my bosses and I said to them, I need to work from home on a Wednesdays because this is what's going on with my daughter and I'm her mother and I'm her only parent. So I need to help her through this. And they were fantastic. They gave me the support. They let me work from home. So from the time she was 6 years old, I was working from home on a Wednesdays to be able to attend this class that helped her get better and better at reading. So, you know, there's success and there's people that help success. Like, I don't think success is a person on an island alone. There's always community of people around you that help you get to where you were. Even if the people are helping you with your child or helping you with projects or giving you opportunities. And I credit a lot of my success to my own resilience and strength, but to the people around me that also supported me through my journey.
Wonderful. They say that when you work really hard, the universe listens and watches you and eventually start to stand up to support you when you are really giving it all you got.
Yeah.
So now let's go to the Happy Career Hub. Happy Career Hub is all about guiding women toward their career 2.0. For someone feeling stuck in a job that doesn't align with their passions, what are the first actionable steps you recommend to break free and launch a fulfilling new career?
So the first foundation steps that I do with people is a process called mining your story. And it's a one that I created for myself when I was getting ready to change careers. I went through my own story to identify the strengths that I have consistently had in life, both in my personal life and in my professional life. For example, I'm a very good organizer. And that's why I ended up in project management, because I'm incredibly organized. The other strength in my personal and my professional life was my ability to write and to use words. So what I do with people is I help them identify their strengths that they can use in the current career, but also that they could potentially use in another career, in a different career. So it's called your transferable skills, right? You identify your transferable skills, you figure out. Then the next process is, what kind of career would you want to go to? So say, for example, and I'm going to give an example because it's probably easier to illustrate it. I was working with a doctor in Singapore. He was a GP, but he had a real passion and interest in technology and emerging technology. And he was like, how do I transition into health technology? I'm a GP. So what we did was we identified all the skills and strengths that he could use, leadership skills, training skills, all of these that he could use in emerging tech. And then we identified the gaps that he had. Like, okay, he didn't have certain skills in some tech skills. And so I said, okay, here's where you could go and look at these kind of courses or programs and maybe get certified, right? So he did some certifications. And then we started to approach the big companies like Microsoft, because Microsoft has got a huge health tech unit or department. And we highlighted in his resume his medical skills, his emerging tech skills, because he'd gone and trained a bit, and more importantly, his people and leadership skills. And then I coached him interview. How do you interview when you ask questions around this? And he landed an interview. We did some practice sessions, and he ended up landing the job as the leader of health tech at Microsoft in Singapore. So this is the thing. It's about identifying what you already have, figuring out what's missing, what are the gaps, going to try and fill that gaps where you can, and then identifying the companies or the industries that you might have a passion for. It's a process, and it's a process that you need to do the foundations right. And a lot of people avoid that. A lot of people want to just go, I'm in this career, but I now want to go to that career. They don't do the foundation piece. And then when they go for the interviews, they're missing a lot. So they don't get the job offers, some of them. The ones who are able to convince people to give them the job end up showing within the first 3 months that they can't do the job, right? And so for me, it's called Mining Your Story. I actually have it on my website, happycareerhub.com, as a free resource. And that's where I tell every person to start. Everyone who works with me, that's where we start. Because if you build the foundations, then you get to write a really great resume. You've now identified so much about yourself and your skills and your experience and where you've achieved in life and in your professional and personal life, what you've overcome. And you've got all the information ready to build a really dynamic resume, build a really dynamic LinkedIn profile. And those are the things that are going to open the doors for you. But when you try and skim over that foundation piece, you're not strong enough as a candidate, and nobody's going to give you the opportunity. So that's my process. It's like, do the foundations and do them thoroughly before you try and transition into your new 2.0 career. And it's not a difficult process to do, but it can be a time-consuming process. You need to do the steps, and I think a lot of people in life want quick and easy fixes. There's no quick and easy fixes. I've learned in life that everything, all the success that I've had has come because I did the foundation. I did the research for things, even now I was quite resistant to AI, right? I was like, no, I don't need to use AI for writing. But then I decided to give it a go. A couple of months ago, I just started playing around with AI and ChatGPT and discovered that it was brilliant for helping me zone in on my ideas. When I was producing content for my audience on LinkedIn or recording videos or trying to come up with good videos with great tips, I went to ChatGPT and it helped me generate really great ideas. And now if some of the stuff that it gave me, the bullet points that it may give me, weren't aligned with what I was teaching, I would rejig it to my way of teaching. So it's brilliant for idea generation, but it can also help you become quite skilled at writing and bringing ideas, distilling ideas down so that they're easy to understand. So I, in fact, am a great fan of ChatGPT and AI now, but I wasn't when I started. And this is what I'm saying to people. You have to be willing to try new things and to learn the foundations of something so you can get better and better at it.
Okay, nice. So, for yourself, identify yourself as introvert or extrovert?
I think I'm both. And the reason I say that is because as a writer, I need to be quiet. I need to be in quiet spaces when I'm working. So I'm writing a novel at the moment. I've been writing a novel. This novel I've been writing for 5 years. I don't know when it's going to be finished, but it's a passion project. So I write a little bit on it, a few times a week. When I'm writing, I have to be quiet. I have to be in my office, in my space, and with no disturbance. And I need that introvert personality. But when I'm working with people, definitely an extrovert, right? I get my energy from people. I like being around people. I like helping people grow. When I was in leadership roles in corporate, my favorite part of the job was growing people, helping people get better at their careers, get better at project management, teaching and training them. So I think I've got a bit of both in me. The writing side of me, there's no extrovert personality. It's completely insular. I have a cup of tea or I got to have my cup of water and it's me and the keyboard and I don't want anybody to disturb me. I don't want any people around me. But yet when I'm training, when I'm working with people in the career space, then it's all about people. So yeah, I wouldn't classify myself as one or the other. There's a bit of both in me.
But you must be more introvert. Someone once told me that actually AI doesn't work properly for extroverts. It tends to work more for introverts because there is a way that it responds to you just as a mirror. And when you have in mind, you will actually not get anything from it.
Yes. Well, look, I tend to agree. And I think that you're correct in perceiving that I'm probably lean more introvert than extrovert because I'm also more of a writer than I am anything else. So for me, my pure joy comes from writing. And writing, whether I write people's resumes, whether I write their LinkedIn, I used to write a lot of the bulletins and the communications for my bosses when they figured out I loved words and I loved using words to tell stories, personal stories, professional stories. They used to come and ask me to do all their communications. So I've been writing all of my life and it's the thing I still love to do the most. So yes, I tend to go in the introvert cave a lot more. But I do like working with people and I do get my energy from people. But yes, the ChatGPT, the AI, when I was training myself to learn it, I was totally in a zone. Like I was in a total inside my head, my spirit, my heart zone and trying to get it to think like me and to write like I write. So absolutely, I agree with you.
Okay, that's wonderful. So let's go back again to menopause. Menopause is often depicted as a time of decline, yet you see it as a powerful period of transformation. So what are some practical ways that women can leverage this natural transition to uncover new opportunities and create a life of purpose and fulfillment?
Well, one of the things I like women to remember, and I had to remind myself of this, because when you first get hit with menopause, slammed with menopause, you often slammed with all the physical symptoms. So, the lack of sleep, the hormonal changes, the foggy brain, women get hot flashes, night sweats, all these things. And often when you have foggy brain in particular, it can really dent your confidence because what you start doing is doubting yourself. You go, like I remember I would go into the grocery store. I'd have a list of groceries that I had to get. My brain was so foggy. I would grab a couple of items on the list and I'd walk out of the store with half of the items forgotten. And yet I had a list of items. So it wasn't like I didn't have it even written down, but my brain was so foggy. And what started happening for me was I started to lose confidence. I started to go, what is wrong with me? Why is my brain acting like this? And so it's a time when a woman can easily lose her confidence. But I think what I try to encourage with women and what I started to realize was that I had been through lots of different things. And I had succeeded in lots of areas. And in particular, I had succeeded in corporate where it was very much a male-dominated, because I was in technology and project management. And at that time, in many ways, even now, it's still quite male-dominated. So I had come through lots of things, had the ability to change when I needed to change. I had the ability to adapt when I needed to adapt. I had the ability to be flexible when I needed to be flexible. And once I started to see those things, it started to give me the confidence that I was losing. I was like, you know what? You don't need to be afraid. Yes, you're going through a lot of changes and you don't quite know which way to go. But if you look at your past life, if you look at life in South Africa, if you look at life through being a mother, through being a partner, all of these things, and this is for other women, being the person that pretty much runs everything, because this is what women are very good at doing. We are very good at multitasking. So we are running a household, we are raising children. Some of us have high-powered careers that we're doing, and it takes incredible organizational skills and confidence skills to be able to do all of that and do it well. But we can tend to forget that when we go through menopause. And so I say to women, go back to all these things. So it's back to that foundational piece. Go back to the things where you succeeded, overcome, and have the strength to then move forward. And the other thing that we need to become really good at, and here's a tip for midlife women, is go get the help where you need it. Because here's the other thing that women can tend to do. We don't ask for help when we need to. But one of the best things you can do, and one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself as a woman, is to go seek help where you can get it. And sometimes that means you need to go have a conversation with your boss, to ask for an opportunity where you might need things to be changed. So maybe you've always worked from home, from the office. Now you're starting to feel tired. Things are changing in your body. You're the person that can go to the boss and say, you know what, I'm going through this and how I need some support in my work. But because if you don't ask for it, they're not going to know that you need it. So women need to also find voices in terms of, that's why I called it internal uprising, because it's about finding your voice to speak up for what you need. You also need to become the person. Here's another big tip for women, and I know we struggle with it. You need to know what to say no to, because women say yes to just about everything. When our children need us, we say yes to them. When our partner needs us, we say yes to them. When the boss needs us to do this, that, and the other, we yes, yes, yes all the time. And we end up saying yes to everybody, and we say no to ourselves. So if we need self-care, or if we need to rest, or we need to not do something, we keep saying yes. And then the stress just builds and builds and builds and escalates. And so your no is one of the first tips I give women. Your no becomes as important as your yes. You have to know what to say no to. So those are some of the tips. The others are really taking the time to think through. Don't rush your thoughts, because for one, our thoughts aren't that clear during that time. A lot of the time we can be going through a lot of brain fog. Take your time in identifying what it is you really want to do and why. And then also look at your patterns in your life. What is the thing? There's always one or two things that's been a thread through your life. For me, there were two threads. One was writing. It's been with me since I was 6 years old. I love it. I've always done it. The other that was there was that I always wanted to help people. So from a very young age, I was working in homeless shelters in South Africa. I was working with disabled children, things like that. So I knew, I could see there was a thread in my life of always wanting to help others. And so that's why I ended up creating this business, because it's satisfying my two key threads, helping others and writing for people. And so now I'm doing a career that I absolutely love and that I know is making a difference, that's contributing to others, and where I get to use my love of words to create their professional stories and help them get what they want. So that's the advice.
So people should take care of that particular thing that has been around them for a very long time. So I agree with that. You
Yes.
The way at the time, another, I remember when I started running English, there is a topic of composition where they give you a topic and then they want you to develop it into a story of some kind of words. And I remember no one could ever compete me in that.
Yes.
Something I really enjoyed much. And when I lost my father back in 2018, I sat down and discovered it's the only thing I could do at that time.
Yes.
It's something that has been around, something that I enjoy doing, something that is inside my heart. So I agree with you. People should try to find that thing that is inside them, especially when you are in the declining ages. Actually, there are ages where it's even hard to find a new job.
Yes.
For example, when you are in your 50s, wise men say that this is the time to take care of young people, young generations. So it's not the time of just looking at yourself. So that's where you have now to use your own internal abilities.
That's right.
So now there are many myths around menopause and midlife career shifts. So what's the one myth that you would love to debunk, and how does breaking that myth help women embrace their true potential?
So the myth that a lot of women have, and even I see some men, because I also work with some male clients, they believe that they can't make the change, that they're stuck in the career for the rest of their life. So for example, if they're a banker or if they're an IT project manager or something like that, and they decide, I want to do something in community work, they believe that they're stuck there because they say, I only have these skills. But the thing is, we don't only have job skills, like skills that are specific to a certain type of job. Everybody has a level of leadership skills. If you've even coached your child's soccer team, you have got leadership skills, right? If you as a mother has run a household very effectively, making sure that your partner is taken care of so that he or she can go to their job, that the children are in school on time, that you're able to keep the household going, you have organizational skills, right? But people don't look at that finer detail of life and what skills it takes to actually make that work. And so then they believe that they're stuck where they are, and they don't believe that they can make changes. But everybody has got transferable skills. Most people have got at least 5 to 10 strong transferable skills. Things like leadership, things like organizational skills, things like problem solving skills, things like team working skills. And all of those can go to other industries. And if you get really good at highlighting your transferable skills, you can walk into any job. I have worked with people and we have done it over and over again. Where people fail is where they focus on the job-specific skills, right? Not on the transferable skills. You need to switch it. You need to highlight your resume and your LinkedIn profiles to focus on your transferable skills, because transferable skills can fundamentally go into any industry. And so that's a myth that I always end up debunking with my clients. They come to me and go, it's impossible. I'm never going to. I'm like, no, we've got to do the foundational piece. Let's identify the skills. Let's highlight it. Let's shape the story around the transferable skills. And then they end up invariably getting what they want. And they're quite surprised. They're quite surprised because they, didn't have any kind of belief system. But, I've done it for myself more than once in my life. And so I don't teach people what I haven't done. Everything that I've created in this career transition, I have done for myself. I've walked it. And so I teach people what I've done for myself. I'm a very practical girl. I'm not someone that lives with my head in the clouds. It has to be grounded. We do foundation work and we do it step by step and build the story and build a professional story so that people can actually end up getting what they want. Even at the age of 50 or 55, you can make a transition whenever you want, but you need to understand that it's going to take some time and effort. You need to put the time and effort.
I agree that with you, but I also have a request for you. Remember when I first started learning more about psychology and becoming a mentor, I went to this mentorship club and then I watched everything that they were doing. Truly, I discovered that I had all the skills of the things that they were doing and I was better than most of them. But I didn't know actually who I am. I didn't know what I have. There are some people who, for example, I was someone whom people could look out for certain life advices.
Yes.
And at my age, I never knew that that's something that can be paid for.
Yes.
So when I met those people in the mentorship club, that's when I discovered that I had all these skills that actually people say.
Yeah.
So my question would be that maybe you can put on your website a list of some of the transferable skills that we use in everyday life, but which most people doesn't care about, but that are actually important skills that can be used in other different careers. For example, when it comes to mentorship, coaching, or consulting, we use most of the skills that we have in everyday life. It's not something that I don't see it as something special you can run somewhere. So
Yeah.
you reflect on who you are. You reflect on how you are created, how you operate every day.
Correct.
So it will be very wonderful if you do some research and then create a list of those transferable skills.
I think
I see.
some of that in the Mining Your Story, the resource that I have on the website, because when we go through that, I actually give examples. And I think I have a list of these are some of the top transferable skills. And I tell people to ask themselves the question, which you've just shared. What do people come to me for advice for? So some people might come to you and say, Anna, give me some life advice on this, this, and this. And they've always come to you for that. And then there's other people that are just super good with computers. So people go to them for computer advice, right? When people were coming to me, it was always about words and writing. How do I write this better? I've had people come to me to write their wedding speeches, right? They're going to make their wedding speech to the bride. And they come to me and they go, I want to say something really beautiful. How do I say it? And I would help them. So writing was the thing that so many people came to me for advice. So that was like my thread. And in your case, people are coming to you, as you just shared, for life advice. But for some people, it might be computers. For some people, they're really good with numbers. And people come to them and say, I don't know how to do these numbers. I don't know how to do this accounting, whatever, show me how. So in your life, there's always clues. And it's often something that you could do in your sleep that you don't even think is is an extra special skill, but yet other people will look at it and they'll go, wow, I wish I could do that. I wish I was good with numbers. I wish I knew just how to give the right advice to people around particular topics in life. Or I wish I knew how to use words a certain way. And so I do work with people. When we do that Mining Your Story, we cover some of that because a lot of the time people then start to see that what they take for granted, other people will pay money for. What is like second nature to them, they take it for granted. They're so good at it. They just do it automatically. Other people will pay gold for, That's why I call it Mining Your Story, and you mine your story for your gold nuggets. That's the whole premise of that piece of work. People can find it on my website. It's a free resource, and I encourage them to go have a try at it. Go and mine your own story, figure out your own gold nuggets, because in there you're going to find what you need. And it's also going to direct you in terms of what you would probably really enjoy doing.
Okay, nice. As an addition, I would also like to recommend people to read my very first book. It is called Your Life Can Be Changed. And in the first chapter, I wrote about self-concept. So I would also like to encourage people to research and learn more about the self-concept theory. It helps one answer the question which goes by, who am I? So I believe the best step to move forward with your life is to first of all understand who you are as a person. There are community traditions and cultures and values and principles that we share in the society, but I believe one should find what is their unique tradition, what is your unique culture, what is your unique values, and what are your unique principles that guide your life.
Yes.
Now let's go to another question. So let me try a quick exercise for our listeners. If you had to choose one word that is now out of how to read this word, encapsulates, yes, the spirit of your inner uprising, like raises the spirit of your internal uprising, what would it be and why?
Courage is really the word, because it does take courage to firstly identify that you might be having challenges, right? You might be at a stage in life, midlife, where you're going through certain changes and challenges. And it takes courage to make change or to pursue change. Many people, and you probably have seen this, Anatha, yourself, you've probably seen that a lot of people will complain for a long time about why life is challenging for them, but they will take no step to change it. They want it to change, but they don't actually take the steps. And always we have to take some form of action. If you want to change your life, if you want to change your life, your finances, your career, anything, some form of action is required. You cannot sit there and hope for something different and do nothing about it. And to take an action requires courage, because we don't always know what the action is going to lead to, right? You could take an action and it may not be the right action step. But the thing is, for me, what I've seen is that you're better off taking an action step, even if it's the wrong one, because you're going to learn something from that, than to sit there and take no action and keep wishing and wishing and dreaming and wishing, and nothing changes. So courage is, for me, is the ultimate word,
Nice. In mental health counseling and psychotherapy, we say that no matter how many therapists that you will meet in your life, or no matter how many medications that you will take, unless you first of all understand that you have a problem and your problem is your responsibility, and then you make a decision to change, nothing will happen.
Yes.
So much is spent that if you don't personally make this decision that I have to change, then nothing will happen.
That's right. Because we take no action when we don't make a decision to make the change. I mean, it's like if you're working with someone in psychotherapy and you give them tools to use to make changes in their life with whatever things they're struggling with, it's like us reading a book, right? We can read 1,000 books. We can take 1,000 psychotherapy sessions. But unless we, as you say, decide to change and take action about that change, because the moment you decide to change, you actually do something about it. And it might be the smallest little action. It might be I pick up the phone and ring someone and do that step, whatever that step is. But if you sit there and you haven't made the decision to change, you will make no action. You will take, and nothing can happen without action, A action step is required.
I would also like to warn people who search for either coaches, mentors, consultants, counselors, or therapists to never ask for a guarantee of changes or a guarantee of results. Because actually there is the responsibility of either a coach, a mentor, or a therapist is not to change anything about your life, but to give you the tools that you need to make a decision to change. And if you don't make that decision, there is no guarantee.
Correct.
Nothing will change. So that's about you. It's not about who is coaching you or who is mentoring you. It's about you making a decision and taking control of your life and saying that now I am done with this and this and this. I have to make a decision. I have to change.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. A coach is there to facilitate the journey for you. They do not guarantee anything because you are the only one that can guarantee whatever changes are coming for you. You're the only one. We are all only the masters of our own destiny. No one can do it for us. We can get a mentor. We can get a coach. They can facilitate and give us guidance and tools and support us on the journey. But the ultimate change comes from the person that decides that they're changing, that they decide, I no longer want this life. I want that life. This is what I'm going to do about it. So no, a coach can't guarantee anything. He can't I never guarantee anything. I always tell the people I work with, we are in partnership. We are partners. I help facilitate. I share the knowledge. I share what I've done that has worked. You have to apply it. Knowledge without implementation means nothing. It's like reading 1,000 books and not implementing any of what you've read or learned. Makes no difference.
Yes, and the best ever advice that I have ever received for coaches is that you should never tell someone what to do, but instead your responsibility is to push them to do it themselves. Because if something doesn't go well, they will blame you.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
You have to make them be responsible.
Yes.
Now, finally, we got your mission, which is very revolutionary, helping 1 billion women navigate menopause and reinvent their careers. So what does this goal mean to you personally, and how do you envision this movement changing workplace cultures and societal attitudes toward midlife?
Well, it's a big goal. It's a big mission, obviously. Stating something like, I want to help, 1 billion women succeed in their career 2.0 or find the meaning in career and also getting the support in the workplace is a big mission. But you start small. You start, like I've started with my community. In fact, it's probably more than my community here in Australia because I've done numerous podcasts around the world now. And so I'm inviting other people to have that conversation. And already there are women that I've worked with who are going into their places of work to start to open up that conversation to, number one, get the support in their place of work, but also to figure out what is going to bring them joy. Because for me, the most important thing is to help women to understand that they don't need to work in a stressful career. This is not the time of life when you want to be stressed out. Your hormones, your body, your mind is going through too much change. So what you want to do to have a reasonably easy transition is to be in a career that's joyful and that's purposeful. And so for some women, it is staying in their current place of work. They don't want to leave, but what they need is support from their current place of work. So I work with them to go and have those conversations with human resource departments and CEOs, all the decision makers, have the conversation and say, do you think we could implement a program to support women? Do you think we could implement 2 restrooms where women can go and have a rest during the day? I mean, there's so many ways you could do it. And so for me, we start in our own communities, and we are in the fortunate times of our life where we can speak to each other from anywhere in the world. Look at what you and I are doing right now. We are learning about each other's work, each other's missions, and you, the other side of the world. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, And so the world is smaller now. And so the missions whatever mission we have, personal goal or mission, it can be achieved because we can speak to so many people, or we can speak to a representative of a country, and they can speak to other people. And so it grows organically the more we have the conversation. And I'm very comfortable now with this stage of my life. I fought it when it first came because I didn't understand it, because it came when I was so young. But now that I've been through it and I've come through it and I've survived it and thrived beyond it, I would like to see that for other women too.
Okay, good. So I remember when I wrote my first book, I showed it to someone, and then he told me that so he asked me if I would continue to become an author and continue to writing more books. For him, he believed I have wrote almost everything. And then to me, it was like life still goes on. I will write more books. I will run a lot of more things. So do you have like a community people can join?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn, so I tell people to follow me there because that's where I put up a lot of videos and content and free advice. I haven't created my own personal community, but one of the things on my radar at the moment, my calendar is quite busy. One of the things on my radar for 2025 is to create coffee chats on LinkedIn. So maybe once a month on a Friday here in Australia, and I probably would need to work out the most suitable time that works for other parts of the world, is I go on and I invite people to come have a coffee chat with me. And in that chat, they get to ask me whatever questions they want to ask about how to be strong in their career, how to write their resume documents strongly, anything related to career. If they want to ask me stuff about life too, well, I'm happy to share that too. But fundamentally, how they can grow in their careers. So that is something that we're planning to implement. But I am going traveling in middle of May and all of June. So I would say it's something I'm probably only going to implement when I get back from my travels. Because between now and then, I've too much going on. But yeah, that's one of my goals, is to set up a coffee chat community where I just go on and people can come on and just ask whatever questions. Because sometimes you learn from someone else's question. Someone might have a question that you never even thought of. But if you're there and you're listening in, you can hear the answer as well and gain something from it.
Okay, I would also recommend to plan some challenges for women. And also, I would recommend that you explore a platform called nas.io.
What's it? Nas? Spell it?
nas.io. It's a community management platform.
Okay, nas.io. Okay, I'll have a look at it.
Yes.
Why not?
It has not been around for a very long time, but it is revolutionary when it comes to community management. It was created by a traveler who, of course, have met a lot of people. And his traveling was based on creating content about communities around the world.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yes, so
it sounds very interesting. I will go look at that.
I don't remember his name properly, but you can check out nas.io.
Okay.
So now if we don't have something final that you would like to add, do you have something final that you would like to add?
I think what I really want to just say to women, but also to men who are going through changes, is you deserve to be happy in your career. Most of us spend at least 8 to 10 hours a day in the work that we do, which means you spend quite a big chunk of your waking hours in your career. So why not choose a career that makes you happy? Why not do something that really is purposeful and that's joyful, rather than settling for a job just to pay bills, or, find a way to use your skills and talents and get paid for them, so you can end up working in careers that really light you up. Why not?
So you have to try and explore yourself and what you can use your skills in.
Absolutely.
So I would like to thank you very much. I see that we have had a very wonderful conversation of about 1 hour and 12 minutes.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I believe the Dead Minds audience and the Dead Minds family will really learn a lot from you. And I hope to see that community.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yep, I will. So Peter does a lot of that background work for me. I will get him to go and look at that because I'm busy doing the coaching and things. But yeah, I'm happy to keep building communities, especially around the world. I find it very interesting talking to people from all parts of the world. And I've done loads and loads of podcasts. All of my podcasts have been on my LinkedIn. So people can listen to some of the things that I've spoken to various people about various things, you know?
Yes.
And I think we in really great times in the world where we can do this. We can get on Skype, we can get on Zoom, we can get on Riverside as the other one that people use, you know, and we can just have a conversation and learn from each other and share knowledge. I think it's fantastic. I love it.
So I really thank you very much for, first of all, giving me your time. You know, time is very expensive. I respect it too much. Business owner, I know how
Yes.
it is very expensive. So there is personally a lot of things that I know that are very important. A lot of things that I know that I could be doing, but the time is a problem. So when someone gives you your time, some of their time, is very wonderful. Plus sharing your insights and tips and skills. I have to thank you much.
It's a pleasure.
And
It's been wonderful.
I wish to work with you on some of your projects, such as writing.
Okay. Please stay in touch with me. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and we now have each other's emails. So stay in touch.
Yes, I will share some of publishing solutions.
Okay.
You then look into them, and then you will have to share with us your social media links and your website links or any resources that you want to share. Then we'll put that in the description for the audience. So thank you very much for today.
It's been wonderful. Thank you, Anna.